Whoa, hold up. Can one of our lats head back to the fob to grab the Logi so we can get a new hab up in a better position? We also need to make sure to avoid the enemy BTR when we're en route. While some of you may understand that sentence perfectly, most new players just got hit with a tidal wave of acronyms and terminology and have no idea what to think. Hey guys, Gore here. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to be going through the vernacular found in our little world of Squad. Everything from terminology to acronyms to obscure words, we're going to cover them all. Before we do get started, about 88% of you who watch my videos aren't subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content here, hit that subscribe button. And if you're watching this video within a few hours of release, I'm live streaming over on Twitch right now. Come on by for a bit or just to say hello. Now, let's get into things. The first place we're going is down Squad Roll Alley and the equipment each kit carries. Starting from the top, we have your squad leader, which is often called an SL. SLs can place rallies, which are squad-wide spawns that only your squad can spawn on. Sometimes you'll hear fellow squad mates asking, SL, can we get a range mark on this? Well, squad leaders can place a variety of order marks, and these marks display distance. Next down the list, we have the Grenadier. Grenadiers have a grenade launcher. Big surprise. Anyways, you'll sometimes hear the phrase GL being tossed around. That just means grenade launcher and is often used when asking a grenadier to hit something with a grenade. Next, and the two most common acronyms you'll hear regarding roles is LAT and HAT. These stand for light anti-tank and heavy anti-tank. Like their name might suggest, the LAT carries a weaker rocket while the HAT carries more powerful AT rounds. Last for the kits, we have Lone Wolf or Lone Wolfing. You'll often hear these when your squad's marksman is 2 kilometers away from the squad asking for fire team lead, to which everyone will say, there goes the marksman, lone wolfing again. Our next category is going to cover structures and buildables. Starting us out, we have FOB. FOBs, or forward operating bases, is a term used when referencing a part or the entirety of a FOB on the map. Some people say FOB when referring to the spawn point, while others use it to identify everything inside the 150 meter blue build radius. Quick tip, you can toggle the FOB radii by going to this cogwheel and checking this box. The FOB radio is the heart of your FOB, and if it's destroyed, everything within that blue circle is now gone. Before it can be destroyed, the radio goes into a 60-second FOB bleed out, where you can save said radio by digging it back up. Within the blue build radius, there are a plethora of things that can be built. The most common is a HAB, or HESCO Accommodation Bunker. These HABs are team-wide spawns. When enemies are near your HAB, it may get disabled through proximity, or as most people call it, proxied or proxying. Moving on down the list of structures, we run into emplacements, which are static weapons. One of the most common used emplacements is the TOW launcher that fires ATGMs. TOW stands for Tube Launch, Optically Track, Wire Guided, and ATGM stands for Anti-Tank Guided Missile. These are used to inflict massive damage to enemy armor and helicopters at extreme distances. Another emplacement that can be set up on a FOB are heavy machine guns. The Blue 4 factions, being the US, British, and Canadians, typically just call theirs 50 cals, while the Op 4 faction's equivalent, which fires a slightly larger round, is named and commonly called a Dishka. Moving on, let's take a look at the vehicles you'll find in Squad. First up, we have a BTR. Here's a BTR. No, that isn't it either. Shit. BTR, no. Yes, here we are, a BTR. Contrary to what you might hear from players' callouts, there are in fact only 2 BTRs in Squad. The BTR-82 is equipped with a 30mm autocannon, which is oftentimes called a 30 mic, and the other has a 14.5 main cannon, typically called by its actual name, BTR-80. The more common of the two, the BTR-82, is only found on the Russian faction and rarely seen within the militia faction in a slightly different variant. So if you aren't facing the Russians, it isn't a BTR. On to some of the other vehicles in Squad. The only armored Vic that should actually be called a tank is one of the 5 MBTs, or main battle tanks. These being the Abrams, the Challenger, also called the Chally, the Leopard, often called the Leo, and the T-62 and T-72. Below these MBTs are IFVs, or infantry fighting vehicles. These Vics excel at, you guessed it, fighting infantry. Each IFV has a deadly main cannon and are sometimes equipped with ATGMs. Speed round, IFV edition, BMP-1, BMP-2, Bradley, Lav, BTR, Warrior, Scimitar, CTAS, or 40 mil. Now, I'm not going to touch on every last vehicle and its identification, as that's a topic that warrants its own video, but there's a final few I'd like to cover. First is the BRDM and its 2 vehicles that fall underneath this umbrella. The acronym is unimportant, but the 2 vehicles are very different. You have the Scout Car, which has a 14.5 cannon like the BTR-80, and then you have the Spandrel, which is equipped with 5 ATGMs and is infinitely more dangerous to your team. Next, teams are equipped with logistics vehicles to carry supplies around the battlefield and establish fobs. These supply trucks are almost always referred to as lodges. Finally, we have my favorite vehicle term referencing our lovely MTLB over here. These Vics are often referred to as shitboxes because of their rather box-like shape and their overall combat ability being quite shit. That's not a meme, by the way, it's what they've been called for as long as I can remember. Speaking of vehicles, a term often used in any Vic equipped with a machine gun or cannon is depression. No, not the reason you're sad all the time. Depression or gun depression is the amount or ability for your barrel to be lowered. In instances where a tank is pitched back on a hill, the gunner is going to have no depression, aka he won't be able to look down to see his intended target. The last section for this video is going to be explaining a lot of the one-off terms or acronyms you might hear during your time in squad. First up, we have seeding. Servers in squad are community run, meaning they don't fill up automatically through a matchmaking process. Most servers reach a certain point in a 24-hour period, typically off-peak hours, where the server will lose a bulk of its players and slowly drop down to 0. In enters our heroic seeding, where server admins will change to a smaller map, have stricter rules, and will have players fight over a small area until said server has enough players to move on to a full match. All jokes aside, helping a server seed is one of the best ways you can contribute to any community that you enjoy. Most don't even care if you're AFK, so if you're working and have the spare resources to run squad in the background, you can make server admins' lives a whole lot easier. Next on our list is backcapping. Depending on which map you're playing and how many objectives there are, some of these objectives will be classified as a backcap. Backcaps are usually your gimme objectives that the enemy team has no chance of stopping you from taking them. That can be a different story when playing AAS, but I won't delve too deep into the subject. Most rounds, your first 2 objectives are called backcaps. It only takes 1 person in the capture zone to secure these, so oftentimes you'll see a helicopter, a light vehicle, or a dropped-off infantryman handling these. Failing to backcap can send your team spiraling out of control, so if you want to be a team player and get a few pats on the back, volunteer to capture these first couple objectives. On the giving end, you love to hear this next one, but it's not too good when you're on the receiving end. No, it's not that. Get your mind out of the gutter. We're talking about the act of rolling or getting rolled. This term is often used when either you are dominating the enemy team or when the enemy team is dominating you. Well, I guess that sounded just as bad. Whatever. When in a vehicle, armored or not, you'll find yourself needing to rearm or resupply. The term often used when having to make the trek back to main base is RTB or return to base. Also, on rarer occasions, you'll hear players talking about driving on or looking towards the MSR. MSR stands for main supply route and is often used when referencing the primary avenue enemy vehicles are likely to travel along. On a map like Yeho, you'll hear people saying like Central MSR, Eastern MSR, and Northern MSR to indicate one of the main roads on the map. I think all of us have heard our fair share of teammates yelling, "Danger close!" in local comms trying to alert our team that there's enemies nearby. This is not the correct application of this phrase. Danger close is used when close air support, artillery, or mortar fired is called for and friendlies are within close proximity of the target. Speaking of danger close, the times you may hear this phrase is when your team's commander is using one of his command abilities. Most people know what these are, with the A10s or the Arty. On the lesser known side, you have the Sioux Strike, which is just a bombing run performed by an Su-25. Lastly, for the Insurgent and irregular militia commanders, they're equipped with a heavy mortar barrage, which is much like the artillery barrage, and also a controllable drone. You'll often hear this drone referred to as an IED drone because one of squad players' favorite things to do with these drones is slap a bunch of IEDs on them and fly them into the enemy team to blow them to kingdom come. Which I might add is an absolute blast to watch, or vice versa, a nightmare when you see flying towards you. Last but not least in this terminology guide, we have blueberries. Delicious blue fruit. Well, when you look at your map in game, all your squad mates are green icons, while everyone else are blue icons. Thus, anyone who isn't in your squad is a blueberry. And that just about does it for today's video. I quite enjoyed making this guide and tried to have a little more fun with a somewhat less exhilarating subject matter. Also, a big shout out to Ben, who left a comment on Monday's video asking for this topic to be covered. If you guys have something you think deserves a closer look, drop me a comment down below and it may be the next video on the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, I'm out.